Hello there and welcome to today's United Kingdom talk on a rather dismal day, actually. Yes, it's rather overcast, storms are forecast, and there's no sunshine. But there we are. We've had a lovely time with the weather over the last few days here in Royal Berkshire, and today it's overcast, so can't complain. But I have to say, taking a bit of a risk today because the storms are on the way, and we could end up going down the road there in an arc, just like Noah did. Would I be one of the two people picked? Because there was two of everything, wasn't there? Can you imagine that? Two Chris Reardons constantly sitting in the studio and talking to you for the rest of your life. I don't know if I could accept that, really. What have we got today then? Oh, I know what look what's happened. All right, I've got my what's this thing? What do you call it now? An adapter for mobile phones. What is it? Charger. That's it. Got this. Oh, what's that noise? Oh, there's a bird up there. I'm in the garden again, incidentally. Yeah, I've broken this mobile phone charger. It's a little plastic bit at the top. I reckon I'll be able to glue this together. The trouble is, it's part of the plug that is broken. You know the top part? You know when the electrical plug in the UK, okay, there's a big bit at the top, which is the earth pin, right? And then there are two little ones just below it, and that's a UK plug, okay? And that kind of goes on there. Now, in this case, the earth plug, the earth pin, is a bit of plastic at the top because, well, I suppose it doesn't need an earth pin on it. And that's broken off. Because what happened, only about 10 minutes ago, it fell off the kitchen side onto the stone floor and it's broken off. Trouble is, I've just thought, if I glue that, because I find even, you know, that super glue stuff, even that's not all that, is it? Eventually stuff seems to break again. I always remember when super glue first came out, and it was advertised on all the telly, and they were saying that the actual join that super glue makes, I'm sure I heard this, the actual join that super glue makes is stronger than the material itself. But I've never found that, have you? A lot of the time it just doesn't seem to work, unless I'm doing it wrong. I suppose I could be doing it wrong, could I? Thing is, if I glue this together and then plug it in, that might break off in the socket then, mightn't it? Oh God, how much is one of these going to cost me? At least £10, I suppose. Oh, that's a point. I think they sell them in the market. Trouble is, they won't be manufacturers' ones then, will they? Oh, I know what I'll have to do. I'll have to wait until someone leaves one accidentally at work, and I'll have that away. Don't you worry about that. There's an email address to the show. It's chris@unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. If you ever want to send an email about anything at all, please do so. chris@unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. Now, I've got a bit of a dodgy eye today. 1 week it's my ears. Today it's my eye, and this eye is watering like mad. It's a bit red. Can you see that? I have a red eye. A red eye. I don't know what it is. It was the same yesterday morning as well, actually. It got a bit itchy and then it went red, and I'm scratching it away. And I know that this isn't going to sort itself out until I've gone back to bed. Probably tonight later on, and gone to sleep for a while. Anyway, shan't need the sunglasses, or maybe I should just wear the glasses because it makes me look cooler. Do you reckon? Shall I wear the sunglasses? I don't know. Or does it just make you look stupid? I'm trying to cover up this bad eye. I bet you didn't even notice until I brought attention to it, did you? Huh? It's like when someone's got a spot, and you don't really notice, and they say, "Don't look at my spot," and then straight away, that's all you can see, isn't it? How many times have you been out with a friend and you've not noticed this, and they say, "Can you see my spot?" And from that moment on, you can't see the rest of their face anymore, just the spot. Has it ever happened to you? Hope you enjoyed the Wimbledon tennis, incidentally. I'm not a great tennis fan, but millions of people are, of course, and the area where the tennis was done, well, they say Wimbledon. I think it's more Southfields rather than Wimbledon, don't you? Anyone who's here in the UK, Wimbledon and Southfields are quite close together. But it's a lovely area down there. If you ever get the chance to come to the UK, do visit where the Wimbledon tennis is. You'll need to get a tube train to Southfields, and have a little look around there. It's all very nice. You come out of Southfield's tube station, you cross the road directly in front of you and kind of walk in a straight line. Don't turn right up the hill, because that's another area. That's the Southfield's housing estate. But if you go straight on, you'll see Wimbledon. It's beautiful down that area. I was very lucky enough when I was repairing the telephones. When I was working for British Telecom, I used to repair the phones all around that area in Wimbledon, Southfields, Roehampton, Putney, Wandsworth, Richmond. And a lovely area to work in. Best job in the world, that is. Or it was at the time, repairing the phones for BT, as I've mentioned a couple of times. So there we are. Right, we're going to go straight on to emails today, because they're building up, which is nice. Thank you very much for those. First of all, it's our mate Susan, who looks after the cats, who has become a regular correspondent, haven't you, my love? We love it. And she starts off with, "Hi, Chris. Please don't feel obliged to read all my posts on your show." Well, we do feel obliged. We do. You've taken the time to read these, so I must read them. To write these, so I must read them out, Susan. Incidentally, I'm feeling rather formal today, so I've got a nice yellow shirt on, and is it pink? It's kind of a light mauvey. I wouldn't say it was pink. A light mauvey coloured tie on today. I don't know why. No idea why. I just felt like dressing up a bit for you today, and I'm probably disappearing with my like light or dark pink tie and my little flowers next to me, little pink flowers next to me. She said, "The event below is one of the most well-documented paranormal happenings in our lifetime. Often on the show we talk about ghosts and supernatural happenings, things that might have happened to you before, and I ask you to write in, and Susan's written this. The ghosts were seen by hundreds of passengers and crew. If you would like a copy of the book or the movie, I would be happy to send you a copy. In the 1970s, when this happened, I was married and living in an apartment. A lot of airline stewardesses and crew lived there. One of our good friends was a supervisor for another airline, but he told us that all the used parts of this jet had to be removed from other planes due to strange occurrences." See, at this point, if we were in the studio, I could have slung in a little bit of the Twilight Zone music, couldn't I? What do you reckon? I just put the pig noises in, incidentally, as an extra bit there. No extra charge for that, all right? She goes on, "The dead flight engineer appeared in the cockpit and spoke to his crew. His voice was recorded on the flight recorder. Now, the made-for-TV movie starring Ernest Borgnine and Kim Basinger, The Ghost of Flight 401. Do you like that? I suppose if I'm wearing a tie and a shirt, I ought to be a little bit more sensible, but I find that very difficult. I'm not a newsreader, I've told you that. On Friday, December the 29th, 1972, an Eastern Airlines flight 401 took off from New York to Miami. That night, the plane crashed in the Everglades. A little over 100 people were killed, including the captain, named Bob Loft, and a flight engineer named Dan Repo. The cause? Equipment failure. After numerous extensive investigations, parts of the plane were salvaged for use on other planes. Soon after this tragic event, rumours started springing up about flight crews seeing the ghosts of Mr. Loft and Mr. Repo on all the planes who received those salvageable parts. But there was only one plane in particular that experienced the most hauntings. It was on a plane 318. The flight crew would see someone through the corner of their eye in full second officer's uniform. The familiar scent of bay rum. Things hit the fan when a uniformal investigate an uni. Silly me. Things hit the fan when an informal investigation was launched and suddenly hampered, so not to stir the media. There was one thing perplexingly certain. The most salvaged parts of Flight 401 were used in plane 318. Years after this tragic and haunting story leaked out, a movie was made called The Ghost of Flight 401 with Ernest Borgnine playing the lead as Dan Repo. Hollywood, of course, magnified the haunting with much special effects. But the truth remains with all the flight crews who had first-hand experience with the original ghost of Flight 401. Oh, just a minute. Have I lost a page here, Susan? I think I've lost a page. Or was that it? Oh, my word. I'm sure there was more to that. Oh, I'm just so hopeless. No wonder I'm never going to get a job on a proper TV station or anything, am I? Well, that's as far as I got there, Susan. So thank you very much for that. I do hope that was the whole email. But interesting that, isn't it, eh? Interesting that. And we often talk about, as I say, seeing things. Perhaps loved ones who have disappeared and sent you little signs down and things like that. And we keep that going, all right? If you've ever had a little sign of a loved one or perhaps a supernatural experience, do let us know. It's Chris at UnitedKingdomTalk.co.uk. Chris at UnitedKingdomTalk.co.uk. And I'll try not to lose in future. Oh no, it says it, page 1 of 1. There was only the one page. But very interesting that, Susan. And yeah, you send as many emails as you want, as indeed our other friends does. For example, Joe. Good afternoon to Joe Morris from AmericanTalkUSA.com. Yes, AmericanTalkUSA.com. A kind of sister show to UnitedKingdomTalk.co.uk. And Joe writes, an exceptional programme on Thursday the 26th of June. And do you remember the story about my friend May, the 88-year-old lady who lives quite close by here? And it was, if you missed the show, she's recently been conned by a man. Well, she was nearly conned. Someone got into her house and pretended to be working for the council or the water board, one of the two, and then proceeded to go through all her drawers looking for money. Fortunately, a neighbour was close by and she beckoned him in to the house, and he jumped over his fence, got into the house, and then the so-called con man, the con man then scarpered for his life, and I should think so too. And Joe writes, gut-wrenching that anyone could even think about nicking anything from an elderly lady. Disgusting. Thank God the neighbour was close by. Yes, thank God the neighbour was close by. She's getting over it. I went round to visit her actually just a few days ago, and you know she's an incredible lady actually. She just talks, you know, that she felt a bit silly that she was taken in by it all. And I told her not to worry, but she was very upbeat about the whole thing. You know, she's not one of these people who walks around with her face right on the ground. I mean, we all see those at all ages, don't we? She's an incredible lady, Anne May. Joe says, anyway, you discussed tips or tipping in America. Now, tips, depending on, of course, where you are in the world, you tip or you don't tip. Now, take Australia. In Australia, tipping is not a normal thing. I was surprised. He says, here in the States, we have a Department of Labour mandated minimum wage. Now, minimum wage is currently $5.85 per hour. It increases periodically, presumably adjusting for inflation. It will increase to $6.55 per hour. Wait staff in restaurants do not make the base minimum wage. In my area, they are paid, are you ready for this? Now, if you're in the UK on minimum wage and you think you're bad off, wait for this one. Wait staff in restaurants do not make the base minimum wage. In my area, they are paid $2.10 per hour, plus tips. So, I mean, it's nothing, is it? $2.10 an hour, so that's £1 5 an hour, their base minimum wage in restaurants in the US. The tips, plus the $2.10, supposedly have to add up to the minimum wage requirement of $5.85 per hour. Does that really happen in every restaurant, Joe says? He says, not sure about that. In other words, without the tips, the waiters and waitresses have a much, much tougher path to make even a paltry wage. Now, it's interesting that, Joe. I wonder how your tax authorities, what's it called, the IRL, is it? Or the IRS, isn't it? Is the IRS, is that your tax people? How do they tax waiters in the US? Are they taxed on $5.85 an hour, whether they get that or not? I wonder. Perhaps you'll let me know that. Or do they tax them on $2.10 an hour, and therefore the rest of their tips is theirs? I'll be interested. I don't know how it works. Do let us know, okay? Chris at UnitedKingdomTalk.co.uk. Joe says it obviously does not work that way in the UK. Well, yes and no. You see, we have a minimum wage here in the UK, and that's for everyone as far as I know, which I gather is about the same in pounds as yours is in dollar. I think it's about £5.85 an hour, something around that sort of level. And on top of that as well, Joe, they expect tips. But on my visits to the US, I wouldn't say that they kind of hang around the table waiting for one. It really is up to you whether you leave one or not. Whereas in the States, I think it would be fair to say that they hang around and wait for a tip. But it is, as I say, it's a different setup, isn't it? Joe says it obviously doesn't work that way in the UK. We typically tip 20%. Right, well, here in the UK, we typically tip about 10%, so that's a bit less. But on the other hand, everyone gets a minimum wage, so there we are. My mother-in-law, who is from Bowness in Scotland, said we absolutely should not tip that much in the UK. Yeah, I would go along with that. 10% maximum. That is perceived as rude or even haughty. Is it uppish to tip? What is considered acceptable? Well, it's here in the UK, it's very much up to the individual. Do you think you got good service? I have been in places where the service is abysmal and I've left nothing in tips. Absolutely nothing. Right? Maybe I've had to wait for ages for my dinner. Not that I go to restaurants very much. Very rarely go out to eat. I find it very expensive to go out and eat. Don't waste money. I'm quite happy with home cooking. Quite apart from that, of course, I'm a bit of a fussy eater as well, you see. That's the trouble. So I rarely go out to tip. Oh, there's that wood pigeon. Oh, listen. I love that, didn't you? Isn't it lovely? I'm so lucky to be able to do my show from the garden. Yeah, so, but on the occasions I have been out, there was been, I suppose, in all the times I've been going to restaurants, there was one particular place that the service was just so good and the staff was so friendly, and I gave a very large tip. Almost a quarter, 25% of the price. But I've only ever done that once. Sorry, I've got itchy ear. Oh, here we go now. I've got itchy ear now. My eye's watering. And no doubt my leg would drop off in 5 minutes' time or something like that. You can't win, can you? As you get older, these things happen. Yeah, so it really is, Joe. You know, if you think you've been given really good service and you're happy, give a bigger tip. However, if it was basic, just give the basic minimum. I don't know. If your meal costs £25, how much should you give? £3 or £4 maybe? Yeah, that's all. That's how it works in the UK. You have to remember, our waiters, okay, they're not on brilliant money, but they're certainly not on $2.10 an hour. You know, they should be on $5.85 an hour. I'd be very interested. I don't know if we have anyone in that sort of industry, in the restaurant industry, listening or watching to the show, but how does it work in the UK? In general, are all your waitress and waitresses on the minimum wage? Or is it £5.85? Perhaps you can give me a bit more insight into exactly how that works. All right, Chris at UnitedKingdomTalk.co.uk is my email address. I would be fascinated to hear that, so we can share that information with Joe. All right, Chris at UnitedKingdomTalk.co.uk. Yeah, Joe says, I bet Suko would like to know before she flies over the pond. The base wage and tipping setup may be very, very different in New York. Yeah, I would say here, if you've had a reasonable service, probably 10%. No more than 10%. Unless you're really, really, really impressed. Okay? If you get a snotty waiter here in the UK, okay? So you go out for a meal, if you get a snotty waiter, you know, someone who's a bit you know, so full of himself or herself, don't leave a thing. Don't leave them a tip. You're tipping for good service. If the service is bad, don't leave them a good tip. And let me tell you something else, and I believe this is correct in the UK. If you think you've had a really bad meal or very, very bad service, you can call over the manager and dispute the whole bill. If it's really been that bad, and say the bill comes to, I don't know, £40, you can call over the manager and say, this wasn't worth £40, we're going to pay for you 30 or something like that. I do believe that's correct. If anyone else wants to add to that bit, I'm sure Carl in Yorkshire, hello Carl, how are you, is at this moment looking up on the internet to let us know if that's true or not. But I think it is. If you have a particularly bad service or a bad meal, then you don't have to pay the full price. You call the manager over and say, look, this is just not worth this, and make him an offer, okay? But don't do it too many times, Joe. All right? Have a great weekend, he says. Joe from Eastern Tennessee in the United States of America. And Joe's very accurate in this email. He even gives his latitude and longitude, 36.2 degrees. No, I don't know what all that. 1,320 feet above sea level. Oh, well, you won't be bothered by the global warming then, will you, Joe? Eh? Thank you for that, sir. Put that over there. It was funny. I was at the Bingay in the Golden Lion on Monday, and they have a big fridge there for the staff in the sort of kitchen area. And I always go. I shouldn't really tell you this. Wherever I'm working, I kind of look around for chocolate. All right. Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't steal anything like drink. Well, I don't drink anyway, so usually, you know, all this spirits and that, they're quite safe from me. But whenever I'm at work, I always have a little look around for chocolate and things like that. And I found something in the fridge at the Golden Lion last Monday. Oh, by the way, it was our busiest ever Bingay in the Golden Lion last Monday. Isn't that funny? Over 200 tickets for the prizes we sold, which I'm quite pleased about. Interestingly, the one at West 5 this week was the quietest, so, you know, swings and roundabouts always, but that'd be okay. You've just got to keep something going once you start it. The Bingo at West 5 in Ealing on Tuesdays, that's at 8 o'clock. Now, that's quite a new thing. We've only been doing it a few weeks now, and it does take a very, very long time sometimes for things to get going. Anyway, so I'm in the fridge, in their fridge, and what I noticed there, something that made me chuckle, a Weight Watchers chocolate cream surprise. So how does that work? Do you see what I'm saying? I thought when he was on a diet or a Weight Watchers, it was all cucumbers and lettuce leaves. There it is, in this fridge, a Weight Watchers chocolate surprise. Now, a chocolate surprise, it's like a plastic thing. I don't know. Oh, there's someone at the door. Can you hang on? I just do hear that there's someone at the door, and I've got expecting a delivery. Be back in a minute. Stay there. It's alright, I'm coming back now. Oh dear. I've been expecting your delivery. Oh, I'll open this in. Oh, this is all very exciting now. Where was I now? Oh yeah. So how does that work? A chocolate surprise, a Weight Watchers chocolate surprise. It's a plastic thing, about I don't know, about 6 inches high, and about inch and a half across, and the bottom is like full of chocolate. I don't know, some sort of chocolate saucy stuff, like all something similar to a mousse, but much smoother. And on top, they've got chocolate. And it was a Weight Watchers. I don't understand how that worked. It did make me chuckle. Now look what's arrived. This is what I've been waiting for. Do you remember I said to you about my solar panels? I went to clean them, and we couldn't find the head. Here it is. Oh yes, isn't it pretty? That's lovely. That is. Got a new head for my so that I can clean my solar panels. I'm pleased about that, and that you see will attach to the top of a pole, which is actually also down there. Let me just go and get it. Oh, dear me. 1 minute. I'm still with you. Don't worry. I haven't gone anywhere. You see that? Oh no, that's the wrong pole, buddy. I've got another long pole in there. There we are. And that will attach to the top of a pole. Then I'll be able to clean my solar panels. Now, ideally, you want to clean. They say that you don't actually have to go and clean them, because I suppose when you think about it, the rain's coming down directly on them and washes all the rubbish off. But I do like to go up there once a year and give them a little bit of a. Well, I give them a scrub. I can't actually get to them. What I do is I put this on top of a long pole. It's like a long. You know those window cleaning things? Close your eyes, I know you're listening on the radio. You know those long window cleaning things? It's like one of those, but it's got some sort of lovely material. It's ever so soft. Oh, it's nice on my face, that is. Oh, I quite like that. It's got some sort of soft material, so what you would do is plunge this in the water and the detergent, put it in the pole and kind of drop it onto the panels, and then just move it up and down to give them a little bit of a scrub. But nothing too abrasive or anything like that. Right, on we go then. We have a new person with us now. Good afternoon to Marsha. Hello, Marsha, who has also become one of my Facebook friends, haven't you, my darling? Welcome, Marsha. She says, hi, Chris. I've been listening to your show on Live 365 for about a year now. Do you remember I asked anyone who listens to the show via Live 365 to email in? Now, Marsha is a British expat living in South Florida for about 15 years. I like it there. Now, that's another place that I would happily live in, Florida. Great big open roads and just and I quite like the climate. It's quite humid, isn't it? A lot of people don't like humid. I quite like it. And I love the lightning storms, which I've mentioned countless times on the show. And most amazing lightning storms. Good way to die, isn't it, in Florida, being hit by lightning, I gather. Yep, she's been living for 15 years in South Florida. She said, I felt a bit nostalgic one day. Oh, I feel like that all the time, Marsha. Always trying to turn the clock back to happier times when I was a little bitty boy in the Scouts. Cubs, do your best. We will do our best. That's what we used to say as cubs. Who was in the Scouts? Come on. Who's been camping? Hey? She says, I felt a bit nostalgic one day. I wanted to hear a familiar accent. I found your show when I was searching for Chris Tarrant. Ah, yes, Chris Tarrant. Marvellous person. Marvellous. Full of talent, that man. Anyway, I've been meaning to introduce myself for ages, and since you were asking who listens on Live 365, thought I should finally get around to sending you a message. I mostly listen at work, and yes, I do often seem strange to those around me who do not know what I'm laughing at. Oh, you must be a secret listener, are you? We have a lot of those. Secret listeners. They got the little earplugs in, and they're sitting there at work in front of a computer, chuckling to themselves, and people are looking over rather than thinking, what are they laughing at? Don't tell them. It's our secret, Marsha. Our secret. She says, I still visit relatives in the UK, so the next time I'm here, I will try to get to one of your Bingay nights. Yes. Come to the one in King's Cross, or indeed the one in Ealing. Probably the one in King's Cross would be easier for you to get to. And she says, Live 365 has got a lot to choose from. That's why I like it. Now, I've mentioned Live 365 to you before. Now, it's a website, live365.com. is the full address of the website, and there you can find not necessarily radio stations, but radio shows of all descriptions. All descriptions. There's music, of course, anything from punk rock to reggae. There's lots of different talking type things. There's news stuff, there's documentaries, there's plays, there's stories, there's religious stuff. It's all there on Live 365, and this programme, United Kingdom Talk, is also part of that network as well, so you can find us there as well, right? She says, I listen to a few other shows on there as well, mostly things that I can't get on local radio. When I was in the UK, I lived in North London. I came here to go to college in Florida and never left. Whereabouts did you live in North London? Because I used to work in Camden Town there, which may or may not have been near where you were living. She says, where I live now, it's a kind of coastal area, so everything is 15 minutes from the beach. How lovely. The trouble is when you get the hurricanes, though, don't you get a bit wet? Being like close to the beach. It's close to Fort Lauderdale, haven't been there, and Miami, so there are often shows and other events to go to. You are never bored here. I also love the constant sunshine. Yeah, I'd like that. Tell me, is solar electricity very big in Florida? Household-wise, I don't mean electrical company-wise. Do many people have solar panels on their roofs in Florida? Because if you've got that sun all the time, I should imagine it'd be good for you lot. I've heard you talk about your trips to Florida. Not sure if you ever came to South Florida. If not, I highly recommend it. I'm on Facebook, so I'll add you as a friend. Take care. Let's keep in touch. And that's from Marsha. And Marsha, indeed, and I are now Facebook friends. I must send you one of my little special videos, Marsha. Eh? Just a quick hello. I'm mad as a hatter, you know that. You don't want to meet me, really. It's scary when you meet me. I mean, I can't even look at the mirror anymore. I get scared looking at myself. It's true, Marsha. Thanks for that, adding me on the Facebook friend. Anyone else that wants to add us as a Facebook friend, I always like keep in touch with people like that. It's quite good. Then just add me as Chris Reardon London. Okay, type in Chris Reardon London and you should find me there somewhere. And I'm holding, as always, a cup of tea. All right. Interesting, actually. Talking about the Facebook, I got an email from Facebook the other day saying to me that I had broken their rules and please don't do it again or your account will be deactivated. And I can't understand what I've done wrong. They said you mustn't send anything rude or offensive, which I haven't done. There goes the phone. Can you ignore that? Was it rude and offensive or advertising anything? And I don't think I've advertised or been rude or offensive. The only thing I can think of is the fact that I've been advertising this show on it. Could it be that? But I don't think so, because, well, I mean, people put on little videos of things, you know, the super wall and the face wall. Okay, quite often I put the show on the super wall and the face wall, and it all kind of works quite well, and people pick it up from that and then watch and join in. So that's really the only thing but I don't see how that's being offensive. Anyone else had a similar email from Facebook? Very strange. And of course, you know, when you try and reply, there's nowhere for you to reply to. That's the annoying thing about it. You can't email, say, Mr. Jones off Facebook and say, hello, I have just received this email. Please, can you be more specific? If they were specific about the problem, perhaps you could do something about it. But instead, the Facebook, they refer you to this list of rules and regulations, which really doesn't help anyone, does it? But that's how it is now, isn't it? Isn't it annoying? It's so frustrating now. Okay, when you get these emails or phone calls and there's no one to reply to, it's kind of they just make a statement and there's nothing you can do about it. I find that incredibly frustrating. I'm sure you've come across this before with various companies. There was a certain mobile phone company I had problems with a few years ago. It was a nightmare, an absolute nightmare. We're trying to get in touch with this mobile phone company. And of course, you know, you never had the name of anyone. You'd always go through to someone else and they wouldn't have a clue. Oh, it's just so frustrating. So frustrating. Thank you again for that one, Marsha. Now, a special thank you today to Brian. Hello, Brian, in Canada, who is, shall we say, our resident motorcyclist. Okay, here on the show. Now, see, it doesn't matter what country you're in. Doesn't matter where you are a resident. Now, Susan, of course, is our resident animal lover. Suko is our resident, shall we say, let me think, our resident, I don't know what you are, Suko. Our resident special person. How's that, all right? Our resident special person. Joe is our resident fellow podcaster. Joy in Acton is our resident old bag. I'm joking. Oh, she'll have me for that one. I don't mean that, Joy. You're going to have me for that, aren't you? Michael and Joe are our resident young tearaways. Catalina is our resident violinist. Hey, we've got loads of people. Fab, isn't it, eh? Fab. Oh, I hope I haven't left anyone out. Oh, and of course, Marsha, what does Marsha? No, let me think now. Don't know much more about you, Marsha. You haven't told me what you do. Let me see. You're near Disney, though. She's about an hour from Disney and 30 minutes from Daytona Beach. Let's think. Marsha is our resident Floridian. Or mind you, Gloria is a resident Floridian as well, aren't you, Gloria? Yes. See, all these names, they come into my head. Don't think I forget you, eh? I don't forget you. Anyway, Brian writes, I heard your comment and request for suggestions on Tuesday's show last week. Now that your nephew Gary has decided to join the biking fraternity. Yes, my nephew Gary. He's 24 years old and has recently passed his theory test for his motorcycle, for motorcycling, and he is about to buy a motorbike. I think his girlfriend's going to buy him a motorbike because she's just come into a bit of money. And me, concerned uncle, am very worried that my nephew's now going to start racing around the country at trans warp speed. I'm sure there's a hair hanging down here somewhere. Oh. Every time I look down, I can just see something at the corner of my eye. You don't think it's a ghost hair, it's not really there. Eh? Could it be that? Oh, I can hear a bird above me. Don't you drop anything on me. There is literally a bird directly above me. Go on, shoo. Is it that wood pigeon? Make that noise again. Doo, doo. So I'm very worried about Gary on this bike, and that's not joking. I am worried he's going to start going a bit mad on this bike. Brian is a motorbiker of advanced years, okay? Advanced years, certainly in comparison to my nephew anyway. Brian says, I'm probably not the best person to give advice, although I've been fortunate enough to have been riding bikes on and off for over half a century. So far, touch wood, without an accident. Here are a few thoughts anyway. Hope you might pass these comments on without getting your nephew's back up is down to you. How you might pass these comments on without getting your nephew's back up is down to you. But I know you are very tactful, of course. Very tactful indeed, thank you. He says, number 1, never, ever mix alcohol with riding on a bike. Important as this while driving a car, it's of course 10 times more important when riding a bike. Are you watching this, Gary? Are you listening to this? A bike requires full and complete attention and alertness at all times. Even though you may not be the cause of an accident, you are likely to come off worse. Serious time, Gary. I'm going to make sure you watch this programme. I am. Okay? Brian says, I used to limit myself to 1 beer with a meal when riding. But he says also, Gary, more recently, I've come to realise that even 1 beer isn't good because it tends to make me ride more aggressively and do stupid things that I otherwise would not. My bike is a 6-cylinder machine with 118 HP. I don't know what that is. I'm just assuming that's quite fast, Brian. And it's all too easy to get into show-off mode with a car at stoplights who fancies his chances. Not a smart thing to do, Brian says. Point number 2. Always wear protective gear. Full protective gear. Not just a helmet. It's not enough. I expect helmets are mandatory in the UK as they are in Canada, although not, interesting enough, in many US states, but the law stops there. I see many riders, mostly younger ones, on high-powered sports bikes riding with a helmet, but then with t-shirts, shorts and sandals. I'm guilty of cheating a bit when the temperature gets up to around 100 degrees Fahrenheit, but most of the time I wear full leathers, including high boots and gloves. If you want to convince yourself of the potential value, just do a search on the internet for pictures of riders with road rash. Now, this is the biker's term for the effects of abrasion from tarmac on unprotected skin. It's nasty. I know it's nasty. Even on a little push bike. There are a couple of occasions I've come off a push bike. Perhaps the ground's been a bit wet and I've turned a corner and your tyres just go, don't they? They just go and you end up on the floor. And a push bike doesn't go that fast, but you still get a nasty abrasion maybe on your elbow. You imagine abrasion like that right the way up your arm and down the side of your leg. Nasty. Nasty. Brian said it's far worse than a thurring going over with the roughest sandpaper. Not a pretty sight. Okay? So type that into your Google, Gary, bike road rash, and see what comes up. Brian says there are ballistic nylon suits available with knee, elbow and shoulder protectors. But good quality bike riding leather garments, not fashion leather, meant to look like biker apparel, are still reckoned to be the best. Dress for the fall, not the ride, is a biker saying worth remembering. Actually, you've given me an idea there what I can get for as a little present for Gary, I think. I'm getting ideas in my head now, Brian. Number 3, ride defensively, okay? Always assume the other guy, usually in a car, will do something stupid and put you in peril. Always be thinking what you will do if he or she does. Do you have an escape route to avoid an incident? Now, statistically, The most dangerous situation for bike riders occurs when car drivers coming in the other direction turn across your path in front of you. They invariably claim after the accident that they never saw the bike. I think that car drivers on cell phones, whether hands-free or not, are the worst offenders, and they are so preoccupied with their talking. I absolutely agree with you. Now, here in the UK, we're no longer allowed to hold a phone and talk, but perhaps stupidly, we are allowed to use a mobile phone in a car if it's on a hands-free. And my personal opinion of that is we shouldn't use a mobile phone at all when driving. Sorry about that, that's another phone going outside. Unbelievable, isn't it? Whether or not they make rules, I mean, I've seen it time and time again. Someone on the phone, maybe like that, turning a steering wheel as well. And it's all sorts of people. It isn't just business people. It's mothers on the way to collect the children from school. I see it time and time again. People on the phone while they're driving along. And it's dangerous. All they're thinking about is the phone. On the other hand, we've had radios in the car for ages and ages. And the thing is, how many times has been perhaps a news story on the radio that you're intently listening to, and then suddenly something's in front of you in the car and you hadn't noticed it before? Maybe we should just have nothing in cars. No radios. But even, you might have a passenger next to you. I remember as a child, myself and my sister were in the back of the car, and we used to fight like cat and dog in the back of that car. Surely that must have put Dad off. All he could hear was two kids fighting away in the back of the car. So it's difficult, isn't it? Is a mobile phone any worse than that? Probably not. If you've got any thoughts on that, let us know. Chris at unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. But I personally feel that you should not be allowed to use a mobile phone in the car, full stop. No hands-free, no holding it, nothing. You shouldn't be allowed to use a mobile phone in the car. Brian says, on my bike, I have what is called a headlight modulator. It continually causes the headlight to go bright, dim to draw attention. This is a good idea. I haven't seen one of these before, Brian. And I'm convinced it's a lifesaver. Use of headlight modulators on a motorcycle is legal in the US and Canada, but I don't know about the UK. No, I've never seen one of those, but that's a good idea. It's like, the lights on the back of on a normal push bike, on a bicycle. The easiest ones to see are the ones that are flashing. We have like little LEDs ones, and they flash quickly like that. They're the best ones to see. I do believe that my bike riding hobby has made me a better car driver, as I have learnt to be so much more aware of what is going on around me and to anticipate errors that others might make that could cause me grief. Okay? Point number 4, even if it's not required by law, take a motorcycle safety education course, as it could be a lifesaver. I'm guilty of not doing that myself, as I don't think there even were such courses when I started riding. That's no excuse really, as I should still sign up for one now at the age of 65 years old. Well, you're never too old. How many times have we all heard that one, Brian? You're never too old. Go on, go and do it. Give yourself something to do, wouldn't it? Brian says, since I got back into bikes in a major way in about 2001, I have, however, bought, read and reread pretty much all of the recognised motorcycle safe riding manuals. There are many internet forums too that are frequented by safety conscious riders where one can hopefully learn from others' experience. Reading others' accidents can be a very sobering experience and can make you realise how easily and quickly these catastrophes can happen, especially if you let your guard down. It is quite hard, I think, isn't it, really? You know, when you're driving along, whether a car or a bike or anything like that, it's that concentration thing, isn't it? Isn't it hard to concentrate for long periods of time, especially? Which is, I think, why they often tell us here in the UK to take a break if you're ever going on a long journey or anything like that. Brian says it would be foolish to suggest that bike riding is not more dangerous than driving a car. Motorcycle riding is a calculated risk. Serious bike riders recognise this and accept the increased risk as a trade-off for the tremendous pleasure of riding, only understood by those who do ride. They accept the risk, but the smart ones still do all that they can to mitigate against incidents. There is a saying among bikers that goes something like this: rather than tiptoeing through life carefully, only to arrive at death's door in a perfect and well-preserved body, a little bit like mine, I suppose, perfect and well-preserved, maybe not, I don't know, I choose to slide into the grave sideways on 2 wheels, broken, worn out, grinning and shouting, "What a ride." That sort of sums it up. Life's no fun without taking a few chances, I suppose. So far, trying to ride sensibly and responsibly has worked for me. Touch wood, although getting cocky about one's good fortune is to invite disaster. I have several friends who have not been as fortunate, and I'm only too aware that what happened to them could just have easily have been my misfortune. We often see in the newspapers here, perhaps not so much on the television because it happens so often now, but certainly in a local newspaper, you often see little sections that say, "We miss you, whoever, and so died on a motorbike." A lot of the time it isn't the biker's fault. That's the thing, it's the cars that hit them. You've got to be aware of that. Nephew Gary has to be aware of that, you know, the accident may well be not his fault. You've got to watch out for other idiots about to make a mistake. It's no point in being all sort of bolshy, turning right, where indeed, perhaps, legally, you should be turning right, perhaps, and having, on occasions, your right of way. It may well be your right of way to carry on the road, okay, when you see another car coming like that. Now that car should stop, but what if it doesn't? The fact that you were in the right has led to your death. And you've got to keep your eye open for other idiots on the road. Let's face it, some of them are drunk, some of them are on drugs. The police can't get them all. You've got to be ready for those idiots that are about to take your life. Keep your eyes open all the time. Just because it's your right of way doesn't necessarily mean you should tear down the road. Keep your eyes open for those people coming out of the side exits. Brian says, I hope these few suggestions might be helpful. With a bit of common sense and maybe listening to his uncle a bit, your nephew will have a ball on 2 wheels. Ride to live, live to ride, from Brian. And he says, P.S. I rode my Goldwing, presumably my nephew will know what that is. I rode my Goldwing from my home near Toronto to both Canada's east and west coasts last year, a total of about 10,000 miles, 16,000 kilometres, and will be riding south to a family wedding in Florida this fall, which is at autumn. Can't wait to get out on the highway again. Brilliant. He said, at present, I'm having a new set of custom touring levers made up. I have to go for a second fitting tomorrow. They won't be cheap, but what the heck, we only live once. And I have convinced my wife that they are an essential safety item. Of course, now I have to buy her a set too. Yeah. He says, PPS, if you want a recommendation for a couple of good motorcycle safety books, let me know. Could be a good prezi from Uncle Chris. So thanks very much for that, Brian. And that is much appreciated, all that information. And I have forwarded that email in its entirety onto my young nephew, Gary. And let's hope he takes notice of what someone with a lot more experience has kindly, very, very kindly sent in to help them. And if you never know, because of those few words you wrote, you may well save his life one day. And I thank you for that. Anyway, time for me to go, boys and girls. Some emails on the next show, certainly from our friend Robert in Iceland. Yes, it's the Viking. Okay, and time for me to go now. Thanks so much for joining me. Do join in by email anytime. It's chris@unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. I think it's about the rain, actually. Chris@unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. See you on the next show. Bye-bye now.